Hey, what's up? I'm Daniel Kaiser, welcoming you back to E3 2010 GTTV's all-access coverage here at the GT stage. Jim is telling us all about Red Faction Armageddon. Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.
We debuted the game on GTTV not too long ago, and here on GameTrailers.com, now we're getting ready to take a look. Tell us all about this game and what we can expect.
Gosh, well, the game is Red Faction Armageddon. It takes place about 2 generations after the events of Red Faction Guerrilla. You play Darius Mason, who's actually the son of the heroes from Red Faction Guerrilla. Grandson, actually, I should say. And you're in a situation where the surface of Mars has just been devastated. Civilization has had to be rebuilt under the surface of Mars. It took them about 10 years before they could get everything in order again. And unfortunately, something has now happened. There are these creatures that are infesting the world, and in 3 short days, they've taken everything apart. And so you're trying to figure out what is going on, and one of the worst parts about it is that people are starting to blame you for those events. So you're trying to both uncover what has happened and deal with the consequences of it, try to help your people out, and figure out how best to save the world.
And you're going underground this time, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of going back to our roots from Red Faction 1 days. In Red Faction 1, there was a lot of the game that was underground, and so it's kind of a fun return to the underground area for us in Red Faction Armageddon. One of the things that we did very early on is we tried to come up with a different sort of environment that you could interact with. And it's our 3rd game now on Mars, with Red Faction 2 being on Earth. And one of the things we found is that there are only so many different ways that you can get Red Rock Mars to look different. I think that we did a great job doing that in the previous games, but so we went underground because it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of different looks to the world. You have ice areas, magma areas, there's certain areas we're not even showing right now at E3, so it really changes the pace in terms of what the world looks like. And the other benefit that we've had with going underground is that in having this kind of environment, you can put destructible objects in the walls and the ceilings, so you can bring things down in all kinds of creative ways that you couldn't on an open surface. So we've actually really enjoyed bringing it underground, and I think the people are going to like that.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at it right now. If you want to walk us through this demo of Red Faction Armageddon, tell us what we're seeing on the screen.
Yeah, so right now we're taking a look. This is Darius Mason, the grandson of Alec and Samanya, and this is the area right now that the civilians have rebuilt. And unfortunately, at this point, you're going to find out that things are not as they should be. Something has gone and infested the world. They've destroyed things. It's a large massacre. Here we're seeing that things are happening, dead bodies around. It's clearly not, all is not well. And Darius, at this point in time, he's leading a convoy of survivors. And what he's trying to do right now is he's on point, and he's going through the world, and he's trying to clear out the infestation to make sure it's safe for the survivors. He's even trying to find others. But what we're seeing here as an example is the infestation that is in the world. And as we go forward here, we're going to see some of the other consequences of what is going on in this world. This right here is part of the infestation. These are the base level enemies that you fight in Red Faction Guerrilla. They usually fight in swarms. They're very quick. They're not too difficult to kill one-on-one, but when you fight them in packs, you definitely have to be careful with them. And so here we're seeing Darius take them out.
Tell us a little bit about his arsenal at his disposal there.
So what he's using right now, this is the PPR. This is also pretty much his base unit. We have a lot of different weapons, and you're going to see one of our new ones here in a few moments, but that's kind of your bread and butter weapon. You use it pretty often in combat, gets the job done, but with Red Faction, it's all about destruction. And so what we've tried to do is to come up with a lot of different weapons that very much cater towards destruction. And in the fact that it's been 2 generations since the events in Red Faction Guerrilla, what it's done is it's given us the opportunity to advance technology in the game world. So whereas we had slightly more contemporary styled weapons in Red Faction Guerrilla, we had some exotic weapons as well. In Red Faction Armageddon, we're really pushing it. Here you're going to see our signature weapon. This is the magnet gun. It's very simple to use. What you do is you fire your first projectile at the target that you want to send flying at the second projectile. And it does just a massive amount of damage in the world. Again, you see it there where we're sending objects flying into it, and it brings the whole building down. And this is something you just can't do in any other game. You don't have a destruction engine to go with it. It just isn't going to work.
Players are going to really have to think outside the box with that then, because they're not used to having that.
That is exactly correct. And what we've done is when people get it in their hands, it takes them a brief moment to start to figure out new ways of doing things. Here you can see it flinging new objects again in the world. It's a fantastic opportunity to try new gameplay with it. Another item that we have here is what's called the Nano Forge, and this is an item that we had back in Red Faction Guerrilla. Alec Mason ultimately got possession of this, and he's handed it off to Darius over the generations. And what we see right here is the repair function of that. There's a lot of different functions that it has, but in this particular case at E3, we're just showing the repair function. But so what we see here is Darius has repaired these barricades, which he's now going to use as magnet gun ammo to fling into this infested building. So there's a lot of abilities to be able to use the repair, both in terms of creating things like magnet gun ammo, also to create barricades, which we'll see in a moment. And first, what we're about to find out is this infested building right here. It actually has a lot of defenders, and we're seeing a new class of enemy here. There's slightly more upright, a much more deadly enemy. And we can see how the magnet gun works with these guys. And again, as you just saw there, you can actually fire the magnet at creatures and send them flying, or you can grab pieces of wall and structure and send them at the creatures with predictable results.
And how has the level design been influenced by giving the player these tools?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work really trying to set up the environment to create a lot of destructible items, make sure that they're very obvious to the player what things they can and cannot use with them. So we've tried to put destructible items all over the place. So again, being underground, we have the opportunity to put them on walls, the ceilings. So we tried to create as many opportunities for people to use the magnet gun, use destruction as they possibly can. And in fact, here's an interesting area where we use the magnet gun to rip open this crate. Darius now rebuilds it to give himself a moment's breather, so he's getting his health back right now while he's inside this. So it's an opportunity for us to try to use the repair function and magnet gun in conjunction with each other. So unfortunately what's happened now though is that the aliens have been massing outside. So what Darius is going to have to do now, he's going to have to go get some heavier firepower once he breaks his way out of this container here. Now he's going to have to run off to what we call the Red Faction Leo. And this is the height of Red Faction technology. This is a combat exoskeleton that Darius is going to be able to get in. And it does just an enormous amount of destruction. We're going to see it in operation right here. So right off the bat, you'll be able to see that this thing has rockets. He does shoulder bashes where he can kill aliens. He can destroy structures with that. He has a rail driver that he can use. It just does a complete amount of destruction with this. Punches just give the aliens. It's a ton of fun to use.
And do you find this throughout the game in different places?
That's correct, yeah.
Excellent.
One of the things we've tried to do with this type of vehicle here is, again, in the couple generations since Red Faction Guerrilla, we've tried to make our vehicles even more exotic. In other words, it's not like the typical wheeled vehicles that you and I drive every day going to work.
Oh, no, I have one of those.
Right? Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have one of those, right? But yeah, we've tried to create some really interesting vehicles that the player will be able to use, and you can see here the kind of destruction that you can do with it.
It's taking Red Faction to new places, whole new levels of destruction. It looks great. Thanks so much for coming by the stage and showing
Thank you.
To us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.